there is a lot of internet chatter.
And there's a lot of buzz.
Hyping up the much anticipated
long-awaited debut of heavily recruited freshman phenom.
A great kid named Cooper
Flagg.
His reputation precedes him.
And the general consensus is...
The guy's talented.
He's blocking everything.
With his tentacle arms.
He just doesn't stop.
There's no escape.
And yet...
You may be asking yourself,
who the hell is this guy?
Explain to me what's with the commotion.
People do become curious.
People would like to know.
Whether or not
He's the real deal.
it's time we got some real answers.
The global expansion of basketball has given the hoop community an epiphany similar to the one that Anton Ego had at the end of the masterpiece Ratatouille. Anyone can cook, but more specifically, even though a select few have the opportunity to become great artists, great talent can come from anywhere. Consider that point hammered home by the fact that Cooper Flagg, the lean and mean shot-blocking machine who is widely considered to be the prize of the 2025 NBA draft and one of the more promising American prospects in recent memory, was born and raised in Maine, a state with roughly 1.4 million citizens as of 2023, in a central town called Newport, which is home to just over 3,000 people. Although the enthusiasm for hoops in the Pine Tree State, quite the riveting nickname, is strong, this is not a place that has an extensive history of producing elite talent. Flagg, who grew up battling in the driveway with his twin brother Ace and his older brother Hunter, is likely already more famous than fellow Pine Tree luminaries like Nick Kaner Medley or Brett Brown. His rep started as a murmur among the dialed-in dorks as he quietly kicked ass in his home state and crested as a full-blown social media and sports talk frenzy when he lined up in a scrimmage against the team that ultimately brought home the gold, drawing rave reviews from credible sources. Rewinding a bit, Cooper's status as a real hooper feels predestined. How many players can say that their mom met their dad while she was playing in a men's league? The Flagg brothers can. Ralph Flagg stands at 6'9" and played junior college ball at Eastern Maine Community College, and his mom, Kelly, who also happens to be his grassroots coach during the summers, was a 5'11" converted post player who stayed in the rotation for the University of Maine from 1996 to 1999, playing major minutes on a squad that upset a Tara Vanderver coach Stanford team in the first round of the 99 NCAA tournament. Cooper is a steadily relentless player on both ends of the floor, and his competitiveness is constantly bubbling over in a visible way. It's really difficult to imagine where that might have come from.
And I never let them win. Like, I would never, ever, ever let him beat me until he, and that's what I always told him. I said, you'll never beat me until you can actually beat me.
That motor to get better off the court is equaled by his motor to get wins on it. This dude is a positive play machine that never, ever stops. For someone at the top of his class, no small play is beneath him. Watch him intercept this pass, throw the ball ahead to Derek Queen, sprint to the rim to get the offensive rebound, save the ball by kicking it back out to reset the play, space for the player that he threw it to, hurl himself at the rim again to get another offensive rebound, stick the ball in, and then roar like a madman. Flagg is a unique prospect in a lot of ways. He's well-rounded, but that's in large part because he's a projected top pick whose defense is the most jarring aspect of his game. For a non-big, that's unusual. Cooper is by no means a small guy. Our most recent measurements at the Nike Hoop Summit have him at 6'8" in shoes with a 6'11" wingspan and an 8'10" standing reach. At first glance, he doesn't look like the type of interior obstacle that we typically see wreaking havoc in the paint. And yet, somehow, Cooper Flagg is one of the most dominant and intimidating rim protectors that I've seen at the high school level. To me, Cooper is a blend of four elements that we rarely see in one player. The first is between the ears, and very important. I think that Cooper Flagg is a truly gifted processor on the floor. He surveys the action quickly and has truly incredible reaction time, often anticipating what's about to happen, but also compensating when he doesn't at lightning speed. Watch him monitor multiple things within this sequence. First, he avoids a back screen from Cam Boozer and then keeps an eye on his man clearing the side. But after this handoff at the hash mark happens, two actions appear to be unfolding simultaneously. A screener looks to be coming on the right side, but the initial handler is running off of another back screen, also from Boozer. You can watch Cooper's eyes survey both, but he doesn't hit the brakes until it's clear that Caden Boozer is committing to throwing this pass, and then he proceeds to break up the lob attempt. All of this happens in about 4 seconds. Secondly, he's technically sound in the way that he pursues the ball on defense. You can see that in the way that he angles his body. He's typically moving with finishers, parallel and avoiding knocking into them head on. But he's also smart about choosing which arm to contest shots with, which maximizes what he can reach. And his hand-eye coordination has him moving on the ball and hitting the mark without clumsily fouling. That combo of reaction time and processing is aided by the third and the fourth elements, which are linked to one another, although not always present at the same time in a player. Cooper is obviously an exceptional athlete. He's a smooth mover laterally. He has some impressive open court speed with or without the ball. And while I wouldn't say he's in the tippy top tier of leapers, he can get up. I'd argue that the fourth element is the most startling aspect of his game, and that's how quickly he's able to get to the high point of his max vertical. Eric Leidersdorf is the director of biomechanics at P3 Sports Science, a company that has closely studied professional athletes since 2006 with cutting-edge tech and analytics. P3 recently conducted a study on this very subject and found that there are 3 types of leapers. Hyperflexors, who need to almost coil up like a spring in order to reach their maximum height off the ground. Hip flexors, who bend almost exclusively at the waist with their chest nearly parallel to the ground. And finally, stiff flexors, who can explode off of the floor to the top of their jump seemingly without loading up or bending their bodies at all. In my unscientific opinion, having watched a lot of Cooper Flagg, I would say that he is in the stiff flexor group.
Really, these are guys who don't need to flex a ton across any joint. The hip, the knee, the ankle, they don't need to go through much range at all before they can fly. They get off the ground really quickly, I think 0.2 of a second. Then the next group, these are really I'd say maybe the athletes who kind of intrinsically wow you when they test.
This kid blocked 116 shots in 24 games during the 2023 16 and under EYBL circuit. On offense, the past 2 to 3 years have been about expanding his game to feature more perimeter skills to balance the interior dominance that he showed at his school of Nokomis back in Maine. I cannot overstate how much Flagg's handling, passing, and shooting have leaped forward during this time frame, and how nicely his structured role at Montverde has worked in tandem with the freedom that he's had to work with the ball in his hands during the summer in EYBL with Maine United. Cooper is smooth and easy with the ball in his hands in open space and typically plays with a deliberate pace. As a driver, I do think that he bends more at his back when attacking off the dribble than the guy we featured in our last video, AJ DeBonsa. AJ sits in the chair a bit better in that sense, but Cooper is still the kind of nimble player in traffic who welcomes contact and is comfortable playing through it. He's only 17 and only a month older than DeBonsa. With strength, these things are only going to get better. His diet of on-ball reps at Montverde has been more of a vigorous trickle than a fire hose at full blast. The results have been a mixed bag of nice moments where he attacks and finishes, cans a mid-ranger, and then sequences where he'll enter a crowded action with defenders who are looking to get under his dribble and having some success. As a passer, Cooper certainly has moments when his precision and decision-making gets sloppy, typically on entry passes or faster sequences where he's throwing something poorly placed. A lot of that real-time spatial feel that we see on the defensive end shows up when his eyes are up and scoping out passing windows. At a minimum, I think that he's justified belief that he could become a stellar connective passer. This is bad defense from AZ Compass, bad zone defense at that, but watch Cooper spot and then immediately sprint to the soft spot in the middle and flow into his jumper before noticing this neglected baseline cutter. Or this play where he catches a hit ahead from Liam McNeely and then intentionally spaces for him to draw the help out of the way and to clear a driving lane for Liam and pops it right back to him. This is spatial IQ. Or this offensive rebound that he turns into a touch pass to a teammate that likely has every scout in the NBA saying,
I'm very aroused.
I could go on. Should I go on? I will. Or on this weak side pin down, and this is a straight up Larry Bird action and outcome, where he feels his defender trailing, engages the low man, and then dumps it to his teammate. Playmakers see the floor because their control of the ball allows them to think about the floor. Coop is clearly mapping and thinking about the floor. What happens when he reaches the comfort level with his handle where he's liberated to think about it all the time? Flagg's evolution as a shooter has also been wildly impressive. Mechanically, he's gone from a sometimes threat from the outside who preferred to have the puppy set before firing to a much more dynamic player in that sense, willing to shoot it with movement and extending his elevated jumper out beyond the three-point line. He spoke candidly about that while chewing gum to Adam Finkelstein in the spring of 2024.
I'm definitely trying to work on getting more elevation in all my shots. especially the three, just because sometimes I kind of get a little flat-footed and I end up like missing short. So I think just being like athletic in my like athletic position and kind of just feeling like that natural type of like organic shot, say like more of a set shot. I think I have a lot more success when I just like, you know, just shoot it and stop thinking about it so much.
While he still shoots these Karl Anthony Towns-esque set shots off the catch, or when he's got all the time in the world to walk into his routine, he started including more attempts with elevation. It can be streaky, but the results have been promising. His upper body has also changed a lot in this area. You guys are going to think that I'm crazy, but watching the way that he shoots the ball today with that wide left elbow on his guide arm and the way that he rolls into his mid-range dribble pull-up, bringing the ball off of his right hip into that high release, I feel like his mechanics have become a cross between Jimmer Fredette and Brandon Ingram. You can yell at me online for saying so. He does still thumb it a bit on his release, but a little thumb never hurt anybody, unless of course it's this guy's thumb. I've had tattoo in the brain today. And overall, Coop's release has become harder to nitpick. It's very close to one motion, his touch is encouraging at all levels of the floor, and his situational awareness is really sharp. Comps are a tricky subject. At best, they're helpful to yada yada who a player is and what their range of outcomes might be. At worst, they distort a player's expectations so wildly that what they fail to become makes it hard to ever fully appreciate them for what they do become. The reality is that prospects at this level often contain multitudes, and that is especially true of Cooper Flagg. He has an incredible range of offerings. An elite defensive processor and disruptor in both deflections and in protecting the rim, who can guard multiple positions, who on offense serves as a capable spacer and a versatile rolling, popping, or passing screening partner, while also flashing some real potential to grow into an above-average self-creator. That's a broad summary and a mouthful, but even if he doesn't completely max out his potential, Cooper Flagg could become a special player. I think that would put him in a cluster with players like younger Nicholas Batum, mid-2000s Sean Marion, and everybody's favorite, Andrei Kirilenko. His most popular player comp largely because
he's white.
The biggest question for his ceiling is whether or not he could become a full-time primary option on offense, and if so, in what mode of offense would he even do that? My best guess is that he doesn't even become high volume in any one area, and thus becomes harder to take away. Of course, I'm saying all of this before he's even played a second of college basketball. My guess is that Cooper will be the most impactful all-around player in college this season, and it's possible that he does so without even leading Duke in scoring. Adaptability. That ability to evolve and change in order to survive or even thrive in any given scenario is such an enormous variable when it comes to which players become superstars and which ones don't. Who has it? Where does it come from? I wish I could say for sure. I'm just a lowly YouTuber. But I do know that lots of players are born talented, and establishing an early pattern of seeking out challenges and avoiding stagnation in players where a player is dominating while not being challenged to think or to grow is a surefire way to dump fertilizer on that ability. That's what Cooper Flagg and the people around him have done during this opening stanza of his basketball journey. That pattern that I mentioned, it's already visible. He played up at Nokomis, won big, and then sought a greater challenge at Montverde. He played up with the USA U17 team as a 15-year-old during the summer of 2022, showed promise, and then grew substantially during his 2 years at Montverde, and then reclassified to play at Duke a year early. If the grind is like the camera in an action movie, Cooper is like Tom Cruise, that is, constantly running towards it. Do you expect that to just stop? I certainly don't. Definitely not a thing that I would wager on. Let me know if you agree.